Welcome to the Affirmations Workshop. Does anybody here have experience with affirmations?
Mm-mm. A little
Harry
bit.
does.
A
Yeah,
little bit. I'm just
a
not
little.
consistent.
Okay, so affirmations was actually like my gate into alternative medicine. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and how affirmations really helped shape my life. So I grew up, first off, I'm from an immigrant family, so lots of trauma. I grew up in a strict religious household. So there was lots of rules and lots of like, don't do this because you'll get a bad reputation. You have to like fit in. You have to do all of these things and kind of follow the path that we want you to. And so when I was in my young 20s, I didn't have such a strong sense of self, maybe. And it was like when you're 20 years old, where I'm from, it's time to get married, believe it or not. And so I did what a good girl does, right? And I married someone, and it ended up being this horrible relationship, right? It was abusive. I'm like 22. I have like no life skills. I like didn't even understand how not normal the situation was. And I was so humiliated and embarrassed to like admit to anybody what was going on in my life. But thank God, like long story short, I was able to get out of that relationship and I got divorced, which was a huge blessing. But I was like in my young 20s and I already was divorced and it wasn't very common in my community. And I felt totally, I mean, just depressed. Honestly, just depressed. I had horrible anxiety. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I weighed 90 pounds. And I was just sick all the time and sick with weird things. Like I had skin infections and constant bronchitis that wouldn't go away. And I remember I have like a picture from that time in my life of me holding a bag of pills and like pretending to sneeze because my friends like kind of thought it was like funny. It was like this thing we joked about that like I always had like a bag of a million pills in my, and I went to, my primary care physician and they're like, not even a psychiatrist. And they're like, here, take this, take that. I'm on Lexapro, Xanax, I'm on everything, which again, I'm not against any of those medications at all. But it was interesting because it wasn't given by somebody who even knew me, right? And so I was kind of just like a mess and nobody was really taking care of me. I didn't really have much guidance. At the time, a really good friend of mine, her mother was a yoga instructor, and she told me that I should come to this like meditation class with her because she knew I was going through this hard time. And I was just like, sure, like, what else am I doing? So I go to this class and it was an affirmations class. So it was a class based on the teachings of a woman named Louise Hay. And Louise Hay is very famous within the self-help world. Like she's one of the like original like people I feel like in that world. And now she has since passed, but her books like live on. And we're in this class and they're basically chanting. And I was not at the time. I always thought I was really spiritual, but I didn't really actually even knew what that meant. I think I always knew I had like an inner voice that was telling me there was something not right about where I was from or the way that I was living. But I knew that that maybe there was something more to explore here. And in the class, they had this mantra, and I'm going to say it. I have the worst voice ever. But it was literally, they were like sing songing and they were saying it over and over and over hundreds of times. And it was like, doors are closing, doors are opening, doors are closing, doors are opening. I am safe, it's only change. I am safe, it's only change. And it's just like repeating it. And it was like this room of people just repeating this, like doors are closing, doors are opening. I'm safe, it's only change. And I just felt like a shift, honestly, like, wow, like this is so interesting. Like at the time I felt trapped and stuck in my life. And the thought of like, oh, that there's safety here, that this is only change and like things are always opening and closing was like it was just new to me. It was like, I don't know, it just really like there was something within me, I can't say, but it like that sparked and ignited and it was like, wow, I need to like explore these teachings further. So I went to my local library in New Jersey. I was like living with my parents at the time. And I remember like walking to the library and I went to like the self-help section, which I hadn't even known at the time, like where that was. and I got out this book here. It's Louise Hay. This is like an old version of it. You Can Heal Your Life. And I like read the book. If you see, it is like so tattered and well, I ended up buying it, of course. And there's like a million notes and post-its in it and random tissues. And I've had even more than one copy of this book, but it's been this book that has just come with me throughout life. And it taught me what affirmations were. So, what are affirmations? It's positive thoughts. That's really what it is. And what struck me about Louise Hay's teachings at the time was that I was stuck in all of these negative thought patterns, and negative thoughts is the theme of day one of our detox. And I had these recurring patterns over and over, like I'm so stupid, like I'm such a failure, like I always make these mistakes, like I can't trust myself, right? And affirmations are turning that on its head, right? It's like I love and accept myself. Like I'm okay. I'm safe. And it's basically the opposite, and it's taking a negative and turning it into a positive. But what really struck me was the concept of that we can change our thoughts, which I just didn't know. And it Louise Hay always says our thoughts create our reality, our thoughts create our future. And I realized that the reality that I was living in with the thoughts that I had at the time was making a pretty shitty, excuse my French, reality for me. And one of the ways that I was able to kind of crawl out of this depression was by slowly doing affirmations and changing my thoughts. And by changing my thoughts, I was really changing like my destiny, honestly. So that's how I got into affirmation. Once I got into the affirmations, I started getting into yoga, I started getting into meditation. It was like this gateway drug into the world of alternative medicine. Eventually, I started seeing an acupuncturist who inspired me to be an acupuncturist. I was doing massage therapy, and I became really like involved in the more holistic alternative world. But what I also saw was that by changing my thoughts, like my physical ailments were starting to heal. That with the acupuncture. Like that's the one shift I really noticed from getting acupuncture at the time was like first the lesson of like, wow, everything's connected. So the reason that I may be having insomnia is because I'm stressed to the nines because of this trauma, which is also why my stomach hurts, which is also why I have horrible headaches, yada 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 yada, and like my immunity's so low, that's why I'm always sick, right? So my acupuncturist was the first one to be able to like connect the dots for me, which now it seems so obvious, but at the time it really wasn't. And then my acupuncturist also, she like introduced me into it, basically into like this entire world that I'm in now. So I loved having the day one be like negative self-talk because guess what? I still have so much negative self talk. We all do. And I feel like being able to like workshop this together and process some of the main themes that we kind of just repeat and be able to flip those on their head and have more like positive self talk is so healing because it's worked for me in the past and I know it works again. It's one of those things whenever I go through a really hard time, it's something I come back to, like, my husband knows if he hears affirmations on my phone, like, I'll do YouTube of Louise Hay's voice doing affirmations, or if he sees this book out, it's like I'm struggling. I'm going through a really hard time, and, because it's something that it's a skill kind of that I can always just come back to. So, if I don't know if you guys so far look today, we had a journaling prompt, which was basically like, what are our negative self thought talks, our negative beliefs. And so I thought that based on the journaling that we've done, or we can do it now, we can like workshop together and help each other come up with maybe some good affirmations. So, one of the things I want to say, because there's like a few rules to affirmations and how they work. One thing is, I've been reading this book forever. It's called The Way of Integrity. Oh, Carrie, we were talking about it.
Like page by page 6, I was so addicted and so excited. I love that book so much.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled. Elisa, this is an incredible book. Called The Way of Integrity. I bought it for the clinic, and this is the clinic copy. I'm happy to lend it to you. I've almost been like savoring it for a long time where it's like I read like a few pages a week, because it just feels like there's so much in it that is just blowing my mind, just the way she thinks about things and her advice. And it's funny, she talks a lot about negative self-talk, negative self-beliefs, and so one of the exercises she has reminded me of what journaling exercise we're doing, and it's basically when you think of a thought that makes you feel bad, you write it down, and then you ask yourself 2 really important questions, and the first question is this true? And then the second question is this really true? And what we're trying to do is figure out like what happens to us when we react to these thoughts and also who would we be without these thoughts? Like one of the things we spoke about yesterday is sometimes when we make positive changes, there's negative consequences. There's things that are keeping us from making positive change in our life because we're afraid of the unknown and we're afraid of releasing a pattern. Because the reason that we're keeping the negative patterns is because we're protecting ourselves in some way from some sort of unknown. So, what we want to do is kind of deconstruct the thoughts and kind of turn them on their heads a little bit, but in a way that also feels very true for you. So, in a way where you don't feel like I'm just lying to myself, right? And so, another just thing to mention is with the affirmations, we usually want to use them in the present tense for because so much healing what happens in the present. And so we don't want to focus too much on the past. The past is the past, the future is the future, but all we have really is the present moment. And so having the affirmations, it's not like I will feel this way, but it's like, no, now I feel this way. And it's to embody and put in our bodies the feelings of feeling empowered, feeling at peace, feeling safe. And then the other one is we don't put negative words in our affirmations. So it's like if you're very a fearful person and you have a lot of things that are scary to you, you don't say, I'm not scared of this. Because your body is paying attention to the words you're using or the thoughts that you have. So using the word not is a negative, using the word scary is not a nice word, but instead it's like, I'm brave, I'm courageous, would be to flip that on its head. So I kind of want to open the floor and then at the end I want to read my favorite Louise Hay affirmation that I've like read a million times in my life. But would anybody I'm happy to share, but would anybody like to share like one of the thoughts that they were working on today or thinking about that just this thought repeats itself over and over maybe in different ways?
So I always, since I was younger, I'm always like, I'm so anxious. I have such bad anxiety. And it's like, but do I? Like,
Ah,
so it was that's what I journaled about today. And I was like, where did this stem from? Like, why is this so tied to my identity? Like, maybe I'm not so anxious, or maybe my anxiety is like, maybe it's helpful. So I wrote down some affirmations, but
okay, well, I would love to hear him, Chelsea. And I just want to say, like, anxiety, I notice is like a part of our identities often. Like, I have anxiety, I'm an anxious person,
right.
and it becomes this like identity for us. And I do think it is like us protecting ourselves, and
Hmm.
especially if we've had it since childhood, it's like there was a reason you were feeling anxious, probably, right? So,
I'm thinking yes. Okay, so these were the affirmations I wrote down. First one was, I have anxiety, but I'm not always anxious. I'm not
okay, so
sure.
yes, we're gonna workshop that one because that's
Okay,
negative, 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 negative. Yes.
perfect. Great. Okay. My next one
I
is,
love it.
overthinking things because I care deeply does not mean I have an anxiety disorder.
Mm.
I don't know.
Okay, so again, I'm like love this is the perfect example
Okay,
because
good.
I think the way that we can flip it on its head a little bit is like first of all, I love what you're doing because actually the affirmations that you've made is you processing. You're processing
Yeah.
why you feel like you have an anxiety disorder or you do have an anxiety disorder and you're processing why where it stems from and the good in it. And I think that that's like such a huge part of the healing in this. But then I think also we can for the affirmation do like I'm safe. Like it's a kind of a
Yeah.
go deeper like it's like I am peaceful. I
Mm,
always create peace in my life.
okay.
It feels like a stretch.
For sure.
It feels like a stretch, because it
Yeah.
doesn't feel so true. But
Hmm.
maybe we can think of something that does feel true for you. Like, I'm a deeply caring and sensitive person,
Right.
and that feels really true to you,
Okay.
right? So things can stir you up easily because you're a deeply caring, sensitive person, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm a passionate, loving person. Like, Chelsea, like, I know Chelsea pretty well now, but to me, like, Chelsea is, like, a loyal, passionate, sensitive person. And
That's
usually when
beautiful.
there's upset, I think it's coming from a place of, like, actual just, like, loyalty
Yeah.
and, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm. You know me.
What's another one you did?
Okay, the third one, and this is my last one, but I put it in quotes. I said being so anxious can and will work in my favor.
Mm. Okay, so I'm trying to so I love it, but I'm trying to not use the word anxious in the affirmation itself, you know?
Okay, yes.
But I kind of love it. First of all, anyone else, please chime in if you have good
Yeah.
ideas for Chelsea. Carrie, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just thinking though, because like a pretty anxious person too, and my system is like great. But I was thinking like from Chelsea's standpoint, and I don't know Chelsea that well, but I think like knowing that Chelsea struggles with the anxiety, I think it's an asset for her because she's so welcoming and she makes people feel comfortable, probably because of the anxiety. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're walking around the world and you're feeling anxious, you're always worried about how you feel and how other people feel. I just see it as an asset. It makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
I agree.
I
I
like that.
think that with I think all of our stuff is like a spectrum, and there's positives and negatives. And like one of the coolest things about anxiety is it's the most protective mechanism that is given from God because it's like if we didn't have anxiety and we didn't have cortisol, like we wouldn't be able to protect ourselves. And it's like it's a part of how we stay human and how we stay alive. It's like being worried about our kids, trusting our intuition, like being on alert for our safety, And so I
Mhm.
do believe that anxiety has a really positive and powerful purpose, but then it can easily just go pathological,
Mhm.
like it can easily become like a detriment. So I actually, in the back of the Louise Hay book, she has like every type of issue, like literally on this page: anorexia, anus, anxiety, apathy, appendicitis, appetite, arms, arteries. So for anxiety, she has anxiety sometimes is not trusting the flow and process of life. And so a good affirmation is I love and approve of myself. I trust the process of life. I am safe.
That's good.
I don't know if that resonates with you.
Yeah. I still like am learning affirmations and getting
Yeah.
comfortable saying things or like taking it in and
It's really like just like I said about meditation, it's like a practice. And
mhm.
so it's something like I think it's a really powerful tool, but it's something you practice. Like so Louise Hay talks about mirror. She talks about how hard it is. Like she talks about like how this can take years,
Right.
right? And one of the things she talks a lot about is actually forgiveness, and forgiving ourselves and forgiving others is a very big part of affirmations and like this type of work. And so like learning to let go and release, and like especially she has a whole thing about parents, and it's like my parents did the best they could with the information they had at the time. I can forgive my parents. She was, I think, like raped by her stepfather, something crazy, So she like writes about her own, like she's had a lot of traumas, and the ability to be able to have like forgiveness in her heart to help propel her own healing. But she talks about how it's hard, how it takes a lot of work, consistency. And so it's almost like a mantra that you continuously repeat. And you start to embody it and it starts to become and feel true for you?
Mhm. Powerful. Thanks, guys.
Get up and genuinely want to be better and get better.
So for me, I have a lot of I'm not enough stuff. I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. It's like enough, enough, enough. And so for my affirmations, it's so funny. Like a business coach I work with, she hears me saying, oh, she hears me using this language a lot. So she's like, you should just always just say to yourself, I can do it. I can do this. And also I am enough. That's kind of an easy one. But again, it doesn't always feel so true because I always feel like, but I could be doing more, right? So it's like honoring that like there's grains of us that things might not feel so true, but the truth is that we all are like enough and we're all perfect the way that we are. And yes, that still means we can have things to work on. We all do, but we can also like love and accept ourselves for right now. So I want to kind of end. I have any other questions, by the way, or thoughts? Okay. So at the back of the book, there's this like handwritten page that I discovered because what she does is in each chapter she'll have like at the end of the chapter a page like this, and it's like affirmations based on that theme. But in the end, she kind of takes all the themes and puts it in one long thing. And I could actually send this to you because in the past I have typed this up and have printed it and have like used this throughout my life. So this is kind of the all encompassing at the end of the book, talks about every problem possible. And I feel like reading something like this, it's like a prayer. Like if you like praying, like this reading this is like your daily prayer. And so I've gone through again, like when I'm in a hard stage, it's something I will read daily. So I'm gonna read it if that is that good with you guys? Okay. Deep at the center of my being, there is an infinite well of love. I now allow this love to flow to the surface. It fills my heart, my body, my mind, my consciousness, my very being, and radiates out from me in all directions and returns to me multiplied. The more love I use and give, the more I have to give. The supply is endless. The use of love makes me feel good. It's an expression of my inner joy. I love myself, therefore, I take loving care of my body. I lovingly feed it nourishing foods and beverages. I lovingly groom it and dress it, and my body lovingly responds to me with vibrant health and energy. I love myself, therefore, I provide for myself a comfortable home, one that fills all my needs and is a pleasure to be in. I fill the rooms with the vibration of love so that all who enter, myself included, will feel this love and be nourished by it. I love myself, therefore, I work at a job that I truly enjoy doing, one that uses my creative talents and abilities, working with and for people. I love that. And I love, sorry, working with and for people that I love and that love me, and earning a good income. I love myself, therefore, I behave and think in a loving way to all people. For I know that which I give out returns to me multiplied. I only attract loving people in my world, for they are a mirror of what I am. I love myself, therefore, I forgive and totally release the past and all past experiences, and I am free. I love myself, therefore, I love totally in the now, experiencing each moment as good and knowing that my future is bright and joyous and secure. For I am beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly takes care of me now and forever. And so it is. How does that resonate?
That's really powerful.
I feel like it's kind of like all encompassing.
Yeah, it touches
I'm
everything.
gonna send it to you guys. Yes.
Yeah, like your home, your work, your just like
Yeah.
who you are.
Your
Yeah,
health, yeah.
Yeah, your health, your
Releasing the
job,
past. That's
your
good.
past. And it's like all her teachings in like one, you know? And I feel like I love it. It's like one of the tenets of like this type of work is the belief that like you are good, like you're a good person. And I think for me that was like a struggle because I think also growing up religious, you know, in any religion, there's a lot of like dogmatic views like bad, good, heaven, hell, right? And like, so it's that you're born good. Like people are born good people. Like everyone deserves love. And that's like the tenet. It's like we're all born good and we all deserve to be loved. We all deserve to be in good health and to have a job we love and relationships that are nurturing for us. And so, kind of like mirroring this, like kind of just speaking these words to yourself or looking at yourself in the mirror and saying these words, I think can like really make an internal shift because as you start to embody it and it starts to set in over time, you do make different choices, I think. Also, like just even with the mantra of like I lovingly like nourish my body, like you're more likely to choose things that are lovingly and like nourishing your body, you know?
Like I'm admittedly working on these affirmations, but I was once taught to like pick, and it was like an affirmation word. So like when you start the negative self-talk, because I'm really bad about negative self-talk, whether it's like stop, delete, pause, mine is pause. And so as soon as you feel yourself going into that negative spiral, like I'm not enough or I'm broken, you try to say it out loud, like you can't always do that, but like pause. And then it kind of tells your brain to like, okay, try and flip it
Yeah.
because our brain, my brain is like always anxious and running. And, so I literally have used the pause. Like at some point I may get it tattooed on my finger. Just like
Ah, that's a good
pause,
tattoo.
pause before everything, but before responding to my kids, before
Yeah.
saying something else to myself. Like that's been helpful for me. Still a work in progress, but
I love that. I think it's such a good tattoo. I love it.
right.
And I think like pause, it's like there's so much powerful in the pause, in the silence. And it's actually what we spoke about yesterday in the opening ceremony was just kind of about meditation and like what's the purpose? And it's to like pause, honestly.
Pause.
And to like separate yourself from the running and the thoughts and the churning and the go, go, go. And it's to just like observe and take a step back and be like, whoa, okay, let me just observe the craziness. Let me like observe that bunny. Oh, Carrie, did you have a word for it? Bunny brain? What did you?
Wait. Oh God, I have lots of words for
I feel
it.
like the last time I spoke to you, you used a phrase like, I
I'm
forgot
sure-
what it was, but it
I'm
was so funny.
sure I did. I'm sure
Yeah.
I did.
And
Monkey
yes,
brain, probably. I have
monkey brain, yes. The monkey brain, yes. And so observing like, wow, I'm having bad monkey brain. Like today, I had a hard weekend. Like it was all fine, but some social situations I was telling Chelsea about over and over, ruminating in my own drama, and I took a step back, like, because I realized, like, okay, like, why is my day not in good flow? And then let me take a bird's eye view. Oh, okay, like, there's been a few days that have been off. There's been a few things that have happened and I have not paused. And I have not, like, paused to, like, nurture the self. I haven't done my meditations. I haven't, because I'm go, 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 right? And I noticed that often when I don't do the pausing or the sitting, that's when I get into trouble. That's when I start having bad days consecutively and I'm just stressed and anxious and, not myself. So I feel like, yes, like my hope is that this week we all learn to just have a little more like care, pay a little more attention to ourselves, to do that pause. All right, you guys, this has been wonderful. I appreciate you sharing so much and keep me updated on how the affirmations go for you. Don't forget your evening supplements.
I'm gonna go do that now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go drink that course.
Drink another shake.
Yeah. Have fun with that, guys.
Thanks, Ahava. This is so
Thank
nice.
you.
Thanks,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Have a
Bye,
good night.
guys.
Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.